The traffic issues of modern cities are actually not coming from those cities. Private cars are being gradually kicked out, and if the city has good public transport options, more and more people prefer not to own a car and use the saved money and time to do something more enjoyable than routine driving. The average age of a person obtaining their driver's license is rising each year, and it seems that the new generation of young people is not as excited about buying their first car. But despite all the effort, congestion has not gone anywhere, and thousands of automobiles are smoking and honking outside our windows every day. Why haven't we been able to put an end to this, and how will we finally do it? That is the topic of this video. Modern urban mobility is changing rapidly all over the world. With the development of technology, from powerful and capacious lithium batteries to widespread and accessible mobile internet, things like electric bikes and scooter sharing are transforming the way we move across our cities. Traditional options, like metros or trams, are getting better too, although quite often we get used to nice things too fast and take them for granted. Governments invest billions in building new infrastructure, and these projects usually receive a pretty good response. Car usage in the city drops. Stressing out in traffic jams, searching for parking and paying enormous fees. Who wants this when the bus stop is 1 block away? Turns out, a lot of people, and they are not necessarily motor car enthusiasts. They just don't live in the city. As said earlier, in the city it is much easier to commute with public transit, and most people do that. The vast majority of cars that you see during rush hour are coming from the suburbs. Most of those people, seeking a quiet life in harmony with nature away from the noise and dangers of the city, commute every day to their job downtown. And in many cases, the most reasonable way to do that is to use a car, creating the very same noise and danger of the city that they have escaped from. The solution to city traffic does not lie in the city anymore, but it is now outside the city center, in the city's metropolitan area. The first thing to pay attention to is, of course, providing a public transportation service that can compete with private cars. And doing that in large, sparsely populated suburbs is a very challenging task. Up to present day, the best candidates to fulfill this role are commuter trains. They are fast, spacious, reliable, and for the areas that are lucky to have a railway, they can be the perfect answer. Except they are not. Even in many developed countries, suburban trains are just not able to keep up with cars in terms of speed, and speed is very important when it comes to traveling dozens of miles every day. We can talk about new, wonderful tram cars and metro stations for as long as we like, but people who, in order to board this tram, need to either drive for 20 minutes or ride a train for 40, will just take the car right from their home to their office, even if it is a bit more expensive. In fact, the railways of today are not much different from the ones of almost a century ago. For example, most of the tracks in Europe that are being used now were built even before World War II. Commercial railway speeds aren't much higher than the ones that were introduced after the widespread implementation of electric traction in the 1950s. And not long after came the golden age of automobiles, and so-called conventional railways lost their role. The attention shifted to special high-speed railways that were introduced for inner-city or even international travel with speeds reaching 200 miles or 350 kilometers per hour. And only half of that can theoretically be reached on traditional railways that are used for suburban services. But even that pace makes no sense, as commuter trains that have to make stops every few kilometers will never have the chance to reach them. Actually, in all of Europe, from Poland to Portugal, effective suburban rail travel speeds vary from 60 to 70 kilometers or 40 miles per hour, and that is the physical limit on how fast such trains can go at a reasonable cost. The only way of dealing with this issue is the construction of additional parallel tracks for express trains that connect distant, at the same time, populated municipalities either without stops or with a minimum number of them. Many places already have such tracks, left over from the golden era of railways that are now rusting from disuse. So we have to accept the fact that commuter train services that can compete with driving can only be offered in a limited amount of cases, and people will persistently bring their cars to the city. It wouldn't be a problem if they were leaving them in a park and ride somewhere near the ring road, but often that only happens on paper. In the real world, it is hard to motivate people to leave their car in the middle of the trip just for the sake of increasing the quality of life in a city they do not live in. And functioning park-and-rides are backed up by additional measures, such as a congestion charge, which is effectively a paid entry into the city, and low-emission zones, which either taxes most older vehicles that are prone to polluting or prohibits them completely. Such innovations will never be popular or easy to implement, but they are the only ones that work. Urban road space is a limited resource, and if we give it away for free, the so-called tragedy of the commons will happen when each individual, acting independently according to their own self-interest, such as not leaving their car at the park and ride, will behave contrary to the common good of all people by depleting or spoiling the shared resource through their collective action. In other words, creating traffic congestion in the city. Some might say that such a policy will not be fair for the low-income households, as they effectively may be charged extra money just for the fact that they are going to work. But in reality, the effects are quite the contrary. Because the drivers who can afford the comfort of paying the congestion zone charge daily are obviously the ones with the highest income, and if the city reinvests the funds that it receives into better public transportation for everyone, it will thereby help the low-income households that don't have a car at all. The most famous success story of implementing a congestion charge happened in the city of London, where the number of private cars entering the central city area has fallen by 39% since the year of 2002 when the charge was first introduced. That's one impressive number. Public transport alone will never beat congestion. But bad public transport will surely contribute to it, as people will go back to using their cars. The path to good public transport is a hard path of trial and error, accounting for thousands of social and economical factors, fighting complicated political battles, and utilizing unobvious and counterintuitive solutions. Looking at the public transport of a city or even a country is a great way to understand its people better. If you are interested in looking at the world from this angle, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click on the bell icon so you won't miss more upcoming videos. Thanks for watching this one, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to like the video and let me know in the comments what you think, and I will see you soon.